We going live? Hello, we are live.
Are we?
It's a bit of a panic there for a minute there, Andre. I didn't know if we were live
Oh, you panicked.
or what was going on. You didn't panic, eh? You're quite calm.
No, what am I going to panic about?
Yeah, that's right. Like, what about when you got a big fish on? I've seen you panic a bit then.
Well, if it's really big, I do, yeah. But
Yeah.
I try to stay calm is probably better. 'Cause,
Yeah.
when you panic and you might make it worse. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know who Andre is, Andre specialises in catching big snapper in the shallow water, and he's an advocate for letting his fish go and looking after the fishery. So there's quite a few things we can talk to you about today, Andre. And I guess as we go through, guys, if you want to ask Andre any questions about how he catches big snapper, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'm sure he'll do his best to answer them. We don't expect him to give away, his spots or anything.
There's no
But I'm
spots.
sure he'll help you with the gear he uses, and I'm sure he has a kind of strategy how to catch these fish. And there we go. Logan had the Bruce Banana King. Is that your nickname, mate?
I don't know. It's just I don't know. I heard it the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife got me into actually using the Bruce Banana.
Oh yeah.
She started off with that thing, so.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of it. I always used to be stuck on the Atomic Sunrise for
Right.
ages.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
She kept always catching the big fish on it, and
Yeah.
I took I converted. I actually converted.
Yeah. And that's another part of Andre's life. He has a lovely wife who is a mad keen fishing girl as well, who often catches fish bigger than Andre.
I still hold
Why
the
do you-
boat record. Yeah.
Yeah, still. Oh yeah. But
I still do.
why do you think she does so well, mate? So can you explain to us why you think your wife catches, lots of big fish, and sometimes more than you as well?
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit about that?
Well, I think she looks at it in a different way than me.
Yeah.
She doesn't look at it in a technical way. She has a bit of a, I'm not sure if I get in trouble for that, like a child approach.
Ooh.
But like in a good way. She's playing around. She sees what color is looking good in the water.
Right.
Sometimes there's like good sign coming through on the sounder, and she's like, "Can I cast at the back?" And I said, "Look, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but just do
Right.
what you like." And then
Right.
she whacks one out the back, and then next
So
minute.
following the bait fish going through the sounder, so she wants to cast.
Well,
at the
even
bait.
like good snapper sign,
Really?
on the sounder. So she just flicks one out at the back and lets it sink, and she just hooks up. Or
Yeah.
I think, but the main reason is when I fish with my wife, we go by my plan,
Right.
and we know with perseverance and sticking to the right areas and casting, even when it's slow. Yeah, when it's like when you don't get a bite for 2 or 3 hours, most of the people be like, "Oh, that's it, let's go home,"
Right.
Nothing's happening, and that's the time when we actually stay there and we keep casting.
Right.
And that's I prefer these days like slow days. Instead of you get a fish a cast, I rather have a sort of a time for like 2-3 hours, nothing happens, and I'm most of the time, between let's say lunchtime and 3 or 4 o'clock, for example, when it's most of the time really slow.
Yeah.
That's when I'm really confident of getting the shot on a really big fish. So
Really?
Yeah.
So you think you get those bigger ones when there's a slower bite because all the other fish aren't active? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, they're not competing a lot for food. That's
Right.
what I found in,
Yep.
in those days. And I rather, as I said, I have it slow, but you fish the right areas and there's big fish, so because you only need to wait for one fish to just actually turn on
Right.
and really want to eat that piece of plastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like part of your strategy. So we'll just go. There's a little bit of your strategy is perseverance and being patient and not giving up when you're not getting bites in a certain area because there's some big fish there. Am I hearing you
Well,
right?
that's right. And you fish all day. Yeah. My wife nowadays, she hates getting up at like 3 or 4 in the morning because I'd like to be fishing before the sun comes up.
Yes.
Well, and then she says to me, "Look, we caught all the big fish in the afternoon. Like, why do we have to launch so early? Then you're naked by midday."
Right.
I mean, I don't care. I love
Right.
it. If I get the chance these days to go when the weather is good, I fish all day.
Right.
I fish I put the boat in the water when it's dark.
Yes.
I take it out when it's dark. It's very simple,
Wow.
yeah.
So a lot of time on the water.
That's the main thing,
A
yeah.
lot of time on the water and a lot of casting. So you're casting all day pretty much.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cast all day.
Well, I eat in between, but I don't take any breaks and I don't muck around. And
Yeah.
you can only catch a fish when you got the lure in the water,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So if you're casting all day, it comes down to your gear as well. So you got to have nice, comfortable gear
100%.
to use to do what you're doing hundreds of casts a day, I imagine.
Yeah.
And so you got to have comfortable gear, eh?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And so what gear are you using, mate?
Well, I
It
fish.
doesn't matter what brands it is. We just want to know what you're using.
Well, I fish mainly the V2, our V2, Ocean Angler
Yes.
V2 microwave V2, or the Top Gun recently quite a lot.
Yep.
Amazing rod, amazing stick,
Yep.
which is super light on its own.
Sure.
And I'm fishing personally. I fish a Daiwa Certate,
Yes.
4,000 size.
Right.
Not a 3,000, because
Okay.
I think the gearing is just a bit bigger.
Yep.
And the weight difference is like not even 10 grams, so it's not much difference. It's just a bit bigger, a bit of robust. I fish like a 20-pound mainline.
20-pound braid. Yep.
Yeah, and a 30-pound trace.
30-pound trace. So there you have it. So that's
It's very simple. It's as heavy as I can.
yeah.
I think even a bigger snapper you can catch on heavier traces. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But it will be hard to cast with the guides, with your FG. You might
Sure.
rip off the guides when you're not get. This
Yeah,
is for
yeah.
me the heaviest gear I would target snapper with,
Right.
and that's plenty.
30-pound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you do any kind of planning like about where you're going to go for the day? How do you select an area to fish for the day?
Well, from experience,
Yes.
I look at wind.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So at wind direction, so if I can fish in the shelter out of the wind, if wind and tide align,
Yes.
yeah, because I don't want to have a wind against tide scenario where
No.
I'm like stationary on a spot. I want to cover ground.
Sure.
Yeah, so even a trolling motor doesn't help you in a wind against tide scenario
No, it
because it makes
doesn't.
it hard. You can't cast
Yeah.
into the wind,
Yeah.
but you also don't want to fish into the drift because your lure
That's
gets
right,
pushed past
right.
the boat so fast. So
Yeah.
sometimes spots, depending on how it is, if you're very unlucky, you just can't fish them. You can fish them, but you're not able to present your baits, your soft baits properly.
Right. So you're looking for areas sheltered from the wind.
If there's wind, yes.
If there's one sheltered from the wind, and trying to get the current and the wind going the same way.
Ideally, yes.
So southwesterlies, outgoing tide, pretty much, except for down by Hooks Point there. It's a bit different, but generally you're in the Hauraki Gulf with a southwesterly wind. You're on the outgoing tide, so everything
Yes.
lines up. Yeah.
Exactly. Ideally.
Yeah.
I mean, I fish in close. I don't fish a lot
Right.
of open water.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you guys know. So but if I always try to find a spot, and then sometimes throughout the day the wind changes,
Yes.
and I'm able to look through like windy or something and see
Right.
where I can
Yeah.
where I go to what times of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm spending quite a bit of time trip planning Andre, and just comparing different areas, wind strengths, and making sure I've got that current and wind going the same way.
Yes.
Because it's such an important factor of all types of lure fishing. Well, all types of fishing really.
Yes.
Because it allows your lure to get down. You're drifting along with the current. Everything lines up a lot better. Yeah. And what about so you've got a trolling motor on the front, it's a spot lock when you want to, and do you use a sea anchor to drift as well at any time?
I use the sea anchor rarely these days. I actually do. If I have a wind with tide scenario
Yeah.
and I move way too fast,
Right.
that's when I use a sea anchor.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
most of the time I fish these days with the trolling motor.
Yeah.
But I only do that, let's say for the weekend, for example, I fished along the coastline
Yeah.
and there was big swell going in, so
Right.
you always stay out of the zone, like out of the danger zone,
Yeah.
quite easily, but you can maneuver along nicely. If I found a good patch, what I luckily did there in the video we
Yeah.
made,
Yeah.
then I use the spot lock and I just lock up there and I just keep peppering the same ground. Or
Right.
sometimes when I want to sleep, when I want to nap,
Sure.
I just set it on spot lock and I just
Yeah.
sleep for half an hour.
They're brilliant, aren't they, for just anchoring and having lunch or something? You just
It's
spot
amazing.
lock. It's really good. So how far off the coastline are you going? Like, how deep are you most of the time targeting these big guys? Because after the small ones, you're only after the big guys. How far out are you from the coastline?
Well, it depends because sometimes the coastline drops off straight down to 20 meters.
Sure.
And sometimes it comes down and then goes deeper slowly. So
Yeah.
my sweet spot is 10 meters.
10 meters.
I love it.
There you go, guys.
The best.
So you're looking for that, because the coastline kind of drops away a bit, then you've got the rocks and the seaweed. and drops off again, and then it turns to the sand, right? In most of our coastline.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't fish like areas where I don't have a particular area where I could think of where it's like weed and sand, but I know these areas are good.
Right.
But I don't have a particular area where I look for that just for that edge.
Okay.
But I definitely look for structure. I look for like
Right.
rocks. I look for kelp
And are you fishing in the rocks and kelp?
on top of it.
On top of it?
Yeah.
So right on top of the gnarly stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah?
because they come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to fish even too deep. You know, that's a.
So you reckon they're in the sea and they're coming up to get your bait?
If they're keen enough, if they want it, yeah, they come up.
Right.
They come up definitely.
Yeah. And so how do you stop your lure getting caught in the seaweed? What do you do?
Well, what I do firstly, I mean, you get a good casting angle, and when I get a good cast in there, I close my bail arm immediately and get rid of any slack of my line.
Right.
I got to make a cool video on this actually.
Yeah.
It's a bit easier to understand. So I get in touch with my lure straight when it lands on the surface.
Right.
Immediately.
Yes.
Like I don't have my bail arm open. I don't want the lure to sink to the bottom, because a lot of times the fish, if you fish in 10, like they sit a meter below the surface, or they sit in mid-water.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm very
Especially
certain.
the big ones, yeah.
I'm certain if your lure lands on the water in 10 meters,
Yeah.
that sound it makes,
Right.
if a big fish is down there who's keen, he's already onto it.
Right.
He already looks at it.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I reckon you're right.
And then it's
mate.
just a matter of getting your lure slowly through the water column. Less is more, not too
Yes.
much movement, and extending the drop with a couple of winds.
Right.
Not a lot of twitches,
No,
nothing.
no.
Couple of winds,
Yeah.
less is more. And most of the time after you give your lure a little bit of movement, that's when you get that
Bang.
big bang, and you just like into a wall, man.
It's good fun, eh?
It's addictive. It's just so good. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people give me stick this year, you only soft bait and rah-de-rah. I just love
Yeah,
it so much, and
yeah.
it doesn't matter at the end of the day, right?
It is heaps of fun. It is my favourite form of fishing.
Yeah.
How about the lures, mate? Like size, shape, colour? How do you go about selecting what you're going to use that day, or what you're going to start off with? Do you have anything you'd like to share with the boys out and girls out there about
Yeah.
how you do that?
Well, color choice is pretty simple, yeah? You just go from experience, what works on
Yes.
certain times of the day. I think I like in the morning, I always like to try to fish something like a nuke pilchard,
Yep.
coconut ice. I fished, for example, with young Santi and Waiheke a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I fished like what did I fish like? I think like a nuke pilchard in the morning, because I thought it's the color, because we fished before the sun came up.
Right.
But he had a bloody Bruce banana on,
Yeah.
and he caught 2 fish. I didn't even get a touch.
Right.
In the, like, not even daylight yet.
Right.
Like super dark. I said, boys, it's too dark probably.
Yeah.
So then I obviously copy him, because if someone on the boat
of
just
course.
catches, you know, you
Yeah.
also want to catch. So that's what I try in the morning. But then most of the time I actually stick to what worked for me in the past. And if nothing bites these days, if it's slow, you know what I'm putting on.
Bruised banana.
7-inch Bruce banana.
So 7-inch bruised banana. So that's your kind of go-to, is
It's-
the 7-inch bruised banana.
Well, I have a lot of confidence, especially in the
Yeah.
Hauraki Gulf.
Yeah.
It's been working so well for us, and it's so consistent. And look, things like this, the fish don't want to bite. If they're not in the mood, you can throw at them whatever you like. Sometimes you can downsize.
Yes.
Yeah, but if I'm especially after big fish, I cast 7-inch
Yeah.
Bruce banana all day. Nowadays, probably like my top 5 would be Atomic Sunrise. Sometimes you get a bit of debris in the water after heavy rain. These days, that's why I probably go for Atomic Sunrise, something bright.
So they can see it better in the murky water.
That's what I believe in, but I don't
Right.
actually know what they actually see, but it's working.
No, we can't talk to Snapper yet, can we?
No, well,
No.
and it's good.
Yeah.
Keeps it challenging, right?
Yeah.
Aye. But I
Yeah.
reckon like Atomic Sunrise, Bruce banana, motor oil, Anouk pilchard, and what else? And one of probably my top new favorites, a new penny.
Oh, yeah.
Good old classic, eh?
Yeah, those are definitely some of the top colours out there, Andre.
Old school. New
Yeah.
penny is so old school.
There's one that you've missed out that I use quite a bit, and that's the Fusilier colour, especially in the
Also
far
good.
north. Have you
Also
tried that
good.
one?
My wife had a good one on that one. I don't,
Yeah.
admittedly, I don't fish it very often.
Okay.
I don't, but
All right.
you can only cast one at the time. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's
you
a
can.
problem, yeah.
Yeah. And so size is generally 7-inch.
If I target
jerk
big one,
shed.
yeah.
And then how about the weight of your jig head in, say, 10 metres of water over all this foul? What are you using there?
3/8
3/8?
all day.
So 3/8 all day long. There you have it, people.
Because in most of the areas there's not like sharp drop-offs. For example, the weekend when I fished a lot of times in like 14, 16 meters, but in casting distance to the rocks.
Right.
So I know it falls off quite steep. So I fished half ounce.
I see.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's a longer sink rate, the big swell
Yeah.
and stuff. So, and that worked like a treat. It worked a treat for me. But usually if I fish the Gulf, I fish anything up to 15, 16, 17 meter, which has probably been my maximum.
Max. Okay.
Yeah. 3/8, short shank all day.
Okay. 3/8 short shank. There you have it, people, from the man himself.
Well, I just fish
And
a
he
lot.
just told you his favourite colours and the size. So you've got the rod, the reel, the braid, the leader size, the jig heads, his favourite colour. So we're getting a bit of information out of him.
We need the attitude.
We're getting
the
some,
attitude
we're
is
getting
all that
some
matters.
information out of him. And so, okay, let's start talking about maybe when you hook a big fish. Okay, so you've cast your lure out, it's getting smashed on the drop. What do you start thinking about to maximise your chances of landing this fish? So what, do you have a strategy or a method or a technique that you start to play out when you've hooked this big fish?
Firstly, what I used to do, I used to fish the drag as heavy as I could.
Right.
Heavy drag, like as heavy as possible.
Yep.
You know, so I don't break my line and things. But what happened to me, I lost a fair amount of really good fish by pulling hooks.
Sure.
You know, so what I do these days, I fish lesser drag, but I still fish enough drag when I strike, because I don't hold back. You know, when I strike, it's like almost like a bass fisherman. You know,
Yeah.
I hit it so bloody hard.
You got to,
right? Yeah,
those
well,
big fish, you got to whack.
you're gonna give it a good whack, right?
Yeah.
But I fished the drag in a way so it doesn't engage when I strike, but
Okay.
still enough drag to get the hook in there.
Yes.
And if I know that I have a really big fish on,
Yeah.
I lighten it up even a little bit.
Lighten it up. Okay.
So you still keep your line tight, everything, because I found the really big fish, they don't
Yeah.
even, like I'm talking the really big ones, everything over 85 plus, they don't even fight like a 80 or like a 79 or something.
No.
They're just stubborn, weighty, they never got me in the kelp, they never
Yeah.
ran me around rocks, they never try to get off the hook, they just
Right.
sit there and just stubbornly shake their head, and they
Yeah.
just dead weight and big head shake. So, but then the other ones, so then what else I do if I hook up, and that's probably another thing, I chase the fish immediately with a trolling motor.
Sure.
I get on top of it. That's my main goal. Someone on the boat hooks up,
Yeah.
you know, someone gets peeled, like someone
Yep.
gets hooked up.
Straight over there.
I don't even ask.
No.
I just
Yeah.
straight there. Get
Yeah.
on top of it.
Yeah.
If the fish is down there stationary, you spot lock the boat.
Yes.
So you create a lesser angle for
That's
your
right,
line to
yes.
be cut off on any structure. So you have
Yeah.
you sit right on top of the fish. I had
Right.
several fish, they were just buried in there, and I could see my line going down, and the fish was fighting over there.
Yeah.
But you just need patience. Don't force it.
Right.
When they bury themselves in the kelp, open your bail arm. Let them
Sure.
swim out.
Yeah.
Because you can't, the more you pull and stuff, you won't be able, you can't do much.
No,
you
no.
open the bail arm, you have the chance of them swimming out,
Yeah.
and you fight them again. So it's always, I always say, you know, once a fish is in the net, then it's landed. But when you hook it,
Yeah.
you can't celebrate, because
No.
you hooked it, you have a chance
Yeah.
to land it, but it doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything.
I agree with you, and because a big snapper, no matter how much drag you have, you're not going to stop him for that first initial run.
They just go.
And the amount of pressure he can exert on the hook, you know, it's going to be quite easy to pop it out. So
Yes.
I'm with you on fishing a bit of a lighter drag.
Especially
on
when
these
they're hooked
big
in the
fish.
gum.
Yeah, especially when they're hooked in the gum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lips are
will come
okay. If
out.
you hook it in the lip, it can't go
Yeah.
anywhere. Like
Yeah.
they're so thick, you know, or in the
Yeah.
corner of the mouth. Especially in the gum, that's the only part where you can rip the hook out easily.
Right.
By fishing too heavy drag or putting just too much on it. Once you hook one, I know it's very hard, but you just try to breathe. My wife always tells me,
Yeah.
breathe,
Yep,
do
breathe.
your thing. I'm even shaking all the
Yeah,
time.
and if you're a crew member, you know, and your mate hooks a big fish, you know, start driving the boat for him, eh? Like, don't
You're gonna do.
you got to work as a team.
You have to.
It's a team thing.
It's a
catching
team
big
effort,
snapper.
100%.
So you've got to start moving your boat straight away. Don't wait, as Andre said. Just
No,
go straight away.
no.
The worst thing that can happen is you move for a smaller fish, but at least you can get them out. You know, and we've been getting. And the last time they happened to me was with Mark in the shallows. You know, with an 18-pounder on the micro gear, and you know, it's 2 meters water, and he said, "There's no way he's going to get it." But by manoeuvring with the trolling motor over the top
Yes.
of it, we got it out. So that is probably the most important thing, is to get over to that fish with your boat as soon as possible. Don't wait to see, just go.
Don't hesitate.
go, yeah.
That's only because you can only higher your chances, right? I mean, what
Yeah.
can happen? It busts you off.
Yeah,
At least you try, right?
yeah.
You can only
Yeah.
try to do things. You never know how it's going to end up for you,
That's right.
because there's lots of gnarly ground where we fish.
Yeah,
and
you just don't know what's going to happen, right?
nah, never.
Yeah, and so So and what about drag settings? It's a bit light, so you just let them take line, and then you're fighting them back. Take a bit of line, fight them, and that drag being taken gets less and less, and he comes to the surface. Yep.
Yes.
So he comes to the surface, and now what's the next step for caring for this fish to maximise his chances of survival?
Well, firstly, I think bring them up slowly, because sometimes even the bigger models I found they're quite fragile.
Yeah.
Compared to like a 50, 60 when
They're
agile. I had fish in like 12 meters or so, like a 70, 72, for example, and they come up, they get a bit puffy.
Yes.
So firstly, bring them up as slow as you can. You don't enough pressure, but you don't play around with them, what I'm saying, but also don't bring them up really fast. And obviously, you get your fish in the net. I was showing you guys in that live video that I have a fairly big net, like a rustler net. It's massive, and my wife got it for me like a couple of years ago. I said, well, you want to catch with this? She said, no, we're going to need it.
There you go, good on your wife.
And she's the best, yeah. And so you get the fish in the net, and the advantage of a big net is you can hold the fish in the water for a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we are like, we don't want to eat them, right? Like
No.
I eat fish and I eat a lot of it. I just don't eat the big ones.
Well, you're a chef, so you know the quality of the different fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we like to eat it. It's also like it's we eat fish.
Yeah.
But I release everything over 50. So anyways, big net, crucial to actually hold the fish. So ideally you fish with two people. If you're on your own, it's a bit tricky, but you can still work that out. You just take your time. When the fish is still in the water, it can still breathe, right? So instead of having the fish in the net, lifting it in the boat first thing, and everyone is yahooing, and then you get your measurement, and you get the scale if you want to weigh it in the sling, and then let's take a photo. You have the fish in the net, you get everything ready. Someone holds the net, and you get your measurement weight, you get your weighing sling out if you want to weigh it.
Yes.
Ideally, you can weigh it in the net if you have a really big net, and just be quick with that fish. Be as quick as possible.
Quick as possible.
Don't drop it like what I did there in the live video. That's silly. Yeah, it can happen sometimes, but try really not to. Like try to hang on to that thing. And Manny said a good thing. You hold your breath.
So Manny, he was on here last time, and he really opened my eyes up. So you've caught this fish. He's just had the biggest fight of his life, and then you bring him to that, and you pull him out of the water, and he can't breathe. So that's the wrong thing to do. Andre's saying keep it in the net, and a good way to measure this, for me, is what Manny said, is hold your breath. As soon as you take that fish out of the water, hold your breath, and that's the same thing the fish is experiencing. So it would be like doing a marathon, and then someone puts you underwater and you can't breathe. So start thinking like that when these fish are stressed, and that they got to recover in the net before you pull them out to take a photo. Hey, that's so important, which I'm only just realising that myself. So I'm sure there's lots of you out there who are only just realising that yourself as well. Is let these fish, how long do you leave them in the net for? Like a couple of minutes?
Well, because once you have the fish in the net, you technically you don't need to rush, right? Your net is deep enough, the fish is in the water, so that's the time when you're actually going to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, because your adrenaline's pumping.
It's pumping,
Yeah.
Your heart is racing and stuff, know, and you're like buzzing because when you're thinking of going out the day before, and this is the moment that you fish for all day, right?
Yeah.
And when it happens, and you got that thing in the net, that you accomplished your goal pretty much, right?
Right.
So you actually,
yeah.
What else you want, right?
Exactly.
You only want to see that big thing swimming back like happy.
Yeah.
And that's in this case, you don't need to stress on it anymore,
No.
So then you're just going to calm down. That's what I have to tell myself. Calm down, even though I want to scream or something, just going to fizz out.
Yeah.
And you just calm down, you just relax, and then you get someone else. You just get the right. I used to panic out with Kia, say, get this.
Right.
But now sometimes, I already put the scale out. It's not that I'm being cocky, but, just in case.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You just have everything ready, get the measurement weight, just put the rods on the side.
So you're doing this while the fish is recovering in the net.
While the fish is in the net.
You're calming down, you get everything ready before you
lift them in, and then okay, are we ready? Can we lift them in? Yeah, we bring them in. Okay, and that's when you work fast.
Work fast.
Yeah,
Get a photo, measure it, get a couple of photos, and then you gently put them back in the water.
Well, firstly, you never pick them up on the tail. I see a lot of people doing that. It's convenient, you pick them up, drop them back in again.
Right.
But can have damage on the vertebrae of the fish, and you cause long-term damage because the whole weight of the fish hanging on its tail, which when the fish is in the water is not.
So
it never happens to it, right? Or you can't, if you intend to weigh the fish, don't hang it up on the bloody scale on the skull.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a 28 pound. Have a weighing sling. You know, if you really want to weigh it, if you
Right.
if you catch a monster, but everything, as I said, quickly. So you put it back, so you grab it by the tail and under the belly, you support the fish, put them back in the water. And I see also lots of people, they push them back and forth.
Yeah.
Fish don't swim backwards.
No.
They don't.
So I guess I was just comparing it to picking up a cat. Like if you pick up a cat, you don't hang it, pick it up by the tail, do you? And
gonna
hang it like
bite
that. So when you pick up a cat, you kind of support it, right? And it goes all cuddly. So I guess
Well, I don't
same-
have cats, but you
yeah,
should
but
be.
that's how I'm kind of thinking in my mind. So that's why you treat the snapper the same. Don't pick it up by the tail because compare it with picking up a cat by the tail.
The cat's going to bite you, I tell
The
you
cat's
that
going
much.
to bite you. Yeah.
Yeah, big
yeah,
time.
Yeah.
And then again, once you have them in the water, don't try not to push them back and forth, because again, the fish don't swim backwards.
Right. So that's going to it'll be suffocating them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fish only breathe in like this. Water never goes into the gills like this, so they're pulling backwards, forwards.
Yeah.
You might think it gets something from it. It doesn't get anything from it. You just hold the fish where it is.
Right.
And if you see like the boat is drifting or something, you get a bit of current. You hold them facing the current.
Right.
And what I found, I had that with kingfish actually in the past. We're trying to release the fish and they was just sitting there doing nothing. And then you sometimes you just spear them in,
Yeah.
give them that initial oxygen rush and help them just to get a meter down,
Right.
which sort of like gets them kicking
Yeah.
down.
I guess it decompresses them a little bit as well.
Once they get to a certain depth, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for the kingies, that helps. I had it sometimes you're like, oh, it doesn't want to swim back, buddy, and then you just
Yeah.
spear them in and that thing
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah. So there you have it. That's how you catch one, look after it, and let it go.
Yeah, especially the big ones, people, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're like having children, any of you guys further down the track, you want your children also to be able to maybe catch a 20-pounder one day. So if we keep just killing those big fish for,
Yeah.
I don't know what for, is not even a point.
No, there's
Then
not.
they're
They're not that good to eat.
important, very important for the ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm not on about breeding and stuff. They're definitely there for good genetic stocks.
Yes.
To passing on the big genes.
Right.
And the most important for the ecosystem, for our reefs, to keep things balanced, like
Yes.
especially with
eat all the kinna, they eat all the seaweed.
the kinna, yeah, like
Yeah.
it just keeps the balance, yeah. And the big
Yeah.
ones, as I'm not sure, I never got it a real big one, but most of the stuff you see, they're full of kinna. That's the
Yeah.
main thing they're feeding on, because
Yeah.
they can with their big
They are.
crunches and their big mouths. They're just made for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so we've got a question here from Logan. When the bite is real slow, do you change over to microbaits to try and get them to bite on the smaller baits? So I know you've done a bit of microbaiting as well, Andre. So when are you doing that? Is it something that you do because the big baits aren't working and you want to have a bit of action, or is it something that you go and say, let's go microbaiting for the day? How you doing that?
Well, it depends what I'm after.
Right.
If I want to catch a big fish, I don't cast microbaits.
No, exactly.
You stick with a 7-inch.
Sure.
Because 7-inch bait, looking at it realistically,
Yeah.
it's not a big bait.
No.
It's a small bait.
Yeah, well, I've seen you catch snapper on bigger baits.
Yeah, I used to fish the 10-inch.
10-inch baits.
The Heroes, yeah.
Yeah.
I had my first big fish with that thing up with Rob Parker in the far north on a 10-inch Heroes.
Yeah.
And that was quite a big fish. And I have caught also big fish on these things. Just nowadays, they're a bit harder to cast. They cast really good on our V2s.
Yes.
But you don't get a frequency, you don't.
Right.
But when the fish, like, if you want to catch a really big snapper, a really big one, and you only want one fish, that's what the people do in Europe. Like the pike fishermen, for example, or the muskie anglers in America.
Yeah.
They cast big baits, and they cast
Right.
big baits all day.
Yeah.
And they only fish for one fish. They don't fish for like
Right.
5, 6, 25 fish.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a very good tip as well. Hope you guys listen to that bit. So that is, if you're going to catch a big fish, use a big bait and cast it all day, and don't give up.
No, you're
Don't
gonna
give
have
up.
faith, Obviously, the
Yeah.
confidence being in the right
Yeah.
area too.
Yeah, well, thinking about it, every time your bait hits the water from a cast in the shallows and it goes down, that's the time. And the more times you can do that, the more chances you have
That's it.
of catching a big fish.
Also, once you get close to the bottom, sometimes I found
Yeah.
you don't fish the lure till it gets back to the boat. Once you feel any seaweed or any kelp in there, I crank that thing back up
Yeah,
and I flick it out again.
right, yeah.
I don't do that whole working it back to the boat and stuff, It's just, I don't really do it,
Here's Blair. Lure fishing is cool fun. Got my favourite flea. It's got no paint on it. Still goes off. Have a spare flea. Brand new, but it looks too nice to take out the paint. Yeah. So guys, that's a pretty good point about our fleas. It's made of tungsten. The paint does fall off. doesn't matter. If you want to replace anything, replace the hook, get the spare assist, put it on. It's not always about the paint on the lure. Does Tane catch many fish? Here's a bit of banter for you from Oliver.
Oliver Murray.
So he wants to know, does Tane catch many fish?
I'm not sure what
he's one of your fishing buddies, Tane.
Yeah, Tane is a young fella. I fish with him quite regularly. We haven't fished in a while. I think I can't really tell the stories what he's been up to because he's not been a good boy. I'd say he should spend more time on the water instead of doing what he does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he's better off on the ocean.
Yeah.
Staying out of drama, staying out of trouble, yeah.
All right. So Tane sounds like you're being a bit of a naughty boy there, mate.
Yeah, just has to get back on track, yeah, and keep casting, yeah.
We've got our mate Injun saying hello. Hi, Injun. Nice to hear from you. Loving your reels, mate, and all your funny stuff. It's really
Injun is a beast.
Gives me a smile on my face when I watch this. Thank you, Injun, for creating that cool content.
He's a machine, eh?
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He's an absolute beast.
Who else have we got here? Becky Michael Peters, as always.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining in all the time. Has anyone got any more questions for Andre? And, don't ask him where he catches big ones. He's not going to tell you.
Well, I can tell you.
Oh, can you?
Just somewhere out there.
Okay.
Where you can get in a 4.5 metre boat.
I'll try a little trick that I do on everyone at the end of the interview because we're winding up. Now, Andre, if you're going to go fishing, say, because there's a good weather window next weekend, if you're going to go fishing next Friday and you wanted to catch a big snapper, where would you go?
I go back up where it was last weekend.
Okay, so you go up to the far north.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's no big fish in the Hauraki Cove.
Oh, there you go.
Hey.
He might be putting you off your thing there.
Yeah, you guys go all in the far north. That's where the big fish are anyways.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up now.
Cool.
So thank you so much, Andre, for coming on.
Always a pleasure.
Speaking about big fish, you can see Andre on Instagram, Drefish.
Yeah, I'm Drefish on Instagram.
Drefish on Instagram, so you can always send him messages on there and ask him where he's going to catch a big fish, and he'll give you all the spots.
I also, that's what I want to add here.
Yeah.
I fish actually a lot.
Yes.
I fish actually very hard, if I get the weather right, and we don't catch a big fish every day.
No, it's time on the water.
It's just really time on the water and
perseverance.
Just you're gonna stick with it. A bit of confidence comes with it.
Yeah.
Over the time, but
Well, it works for you. Like how many 30-pounders have you caught now?
What 30-pounders?
30 pounds.
I have caught one snapper over 30 pounds.
I thought you caught two now.
No, the other one was not 30 pounds.
So how many snapper over 20 pounds have you caught? Roundabout.
I think in almost 5 years I have 11 fish. But my
There
wife
you
got
go.
6.
There you go. Well, between the two of you, got 17 over 20 pounds.
And maybe there are a couple more in there, like a
That's
couple
pretty
of 79s that we didn't measure. They were really fat, but But again, I'm only fishing off my boat for like not even 5 years, and before that I never caught big snapper. So, and I think also what also helps is like fishing with different people.
Yes.
And I fished with a lot of good fishermen. I fished like a lot with like Mark Kitteridge, Josh Darby. I fished with Wayne Downer a lot.
Yeah.
And so from everywhere you pick up a little bit, and you just
That's the way.
add it to your repertoire, and you just
learn.
You learn,
And copy people,
See
what they do,
or do not copy them.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you see people doing things and be like, I'm never going to do that. You know?
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but the biggest thing is out there actually learning, and also what I did on the weekend, for example, I just went up there, I had no idea. Never fished the area, no intel, I only knew it was good. But
1 second, we just got. Oh, sorry.
Paul is blocking the driveway.
Sorry.
All right. Now, what I'm about to say is just I went up there solo, right?
Yeah.
And I got told the area is good, and I got intel from our guy up there, John Sutherland, on the right color.
Right.
But I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's not that someone says, fish there, fish here.
Yeah.
I went up there, used my instinct and what I've learned over the years, how I fish.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Big kingy as well by accident.
Yeah. Well, to me, there's one thing we didn't discuss, and that's the current flow. So you've got these areas, and I always think you need a bit of current as well.
Yeah.
Deep water close by. Deep water close by and current. That's what I'm always looking for when I'm soft baiting as well.
We should go and target a big one. We never went out for a
mission, I want to. Well, I've found this area that I want to take you to when I get some time in Coromandel.
Where is it? I can't tell you.
It's on the outside of Coromandel.
Okay.
Yeah, on the inside, on the outside, and I just saw these places and I said, man, that's got Andre written all over it.
Yeah, but you never know. I think also personally, a good fishing spot is not good every day.
No,
You know,
exactly, mate.
it
Well,
fires like
yeah.
you go 8 times and
Yeah.
one time out of
Yeah.
the 8 times actually you catch a big fish.
That's right.
The other times you go and it's just, but you keep coming back because you know there's big fish there, right?
Yeah, yep, that's the one. All right, people. Hey team, what's your favourite colour light bulb? Oh, that's a good question.
Oh,
What's your favourite colour light? Mine is blue.
Same.
Reg, mine's blue.
same. I got blue, and I think I got pink as well.
But blue's
But-
my favourite.
But I was never really I never paid a lot of attention to it. For me, the main thing is a short shank.
Yeah.
That's
yep.
for me the main thing.
Yep.
I like the long shanks for like the Dormetadors, for example.
Right.
But I found I get more action. Like
Yeah.
that's just me personally. What,
Yeah.
what
No, I
works.
do it as well. I use short shank just about all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about how far back my
No.
hook is because a big snap's just going to smash it.
They fold them in half.
Yeah.
When they inhale them, they
Yeah.
just fold them because it's so
Right.
soft, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
fold them up.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what they do.
yeah. Light bulb jig heads made for Z-Mans.
And I never had a light bulb breaking on a fish.
No.
I bent light bulbs with my pliers by
Yes.
removing them from the fish.
Yes.
And that happened to me quite often because, you know, sometimes
Yeah.
they're so gnarly like in
Yeah.
there. But I never lost a single fish
No.
on hook failure. Is it
No.
like the hook bends open, the hook breaks
Yeah.
or something? Never ever. I rate the light bulbs and perfect
Yeah.
for the Z-Mans.
Yeah, I'm the
obviously.
same, you know, and you know when you get a fish and you got all that adrenaline going, you get the pliers to get the jig head out, you can often twist it or
Happens.
moan it up, and then you know that's not the fault of the jig head. That's
It's not,
It's
no.
because you've got your pliers out and bent it. Yeah.
Happens. Like it
Happens a lot.
Happens to me, but well, only with the big ones, eh?
Yeah.
The small ones
Same with me.
usually.
You're all adrenalined up, and
Yeah.
you know you might ruin your jig head.
Yeah, but I never broke one on a fish. Never
Yeah.
ever. Never
No,
did
no.
it. Really good jig heads though.
Yeah.
Good product.
And you know use new ones. You know, I'm putting a new one on if I'm.
I do.
I won't. If I'm going for a big one, I'll put a new one on each day.
Well,
That's what I do.
yeah.
If I'm going for that trophy fish.
Again, what I also do, maybe that comes with putting a new one on, like a new knot.
Oh yeah.
Don't fish an
Yeah.
old knot from a previous
No.
trip.
No.
Never ever. Like I learned from that.
Yeah.
Also with like your FGs. My trace
Yeah.
is still long
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
before I go for like a serious hunt. Everything like
New.
no room for error.
No.
The trace is still
yeah.
good. You retire a new FG.
I don't.
right?
I don't. Yeah. I don't. So I chop my trace off every time I go fishing and put a new one on every time I go for soft baiting. Yeah. I'll never use that leader for more than a day. That's
But-
what I do, just so I know, because you can get little tiny nicks in them, and you
Can
can't, and you
happen.
can't really see it unless you run your. So I don't take the risk. I just put a new one on
Yes.
when I go fishing.
No room for error.
No, there's no room for error, and you know you might spend years and years trying to hook this fish,
And then you hook
when
it.
you hook it, if there's anything wrong, he's going to find your weakness,
Yeah.
and you're going to cry.
Yeah, I think
You're
that's
gonna
that's
cry.
also a big part of like being successful on landing them. Because
Yeah.
I reckon a lot of people hook them,
Yeah.
but then they're like, sort of, you know, there's no attention to detail, right?
No attention
like,
to detail.
like you said, like an old trace.
Like a little trace that long or something
Yeah,
that's been on there for 5 years.
that's
you know,
left,
it's
you
not.
know.
It's going to. The snapper's just going to tear you to pieces.
old knot, you know, something,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, you don't like these things you can avoid with just being mindful.
Yeah.
And you know, having that, you know, that
Yeah.
the right mindset.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be
no.
lazy. Cast, change your baits, new hooks, good fluorocarbon. And I think we're just about done. Hey team, what's your favourite colour? Cheers guys, no worries. Some good tips, thanks Ruan.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, that's. I don't know if anyone got anything. The rest is pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Any
time
good
on the water, man.
time on the water? Yeah, microbaiting as well. Oh, I fished on
Microbaiting?
Monday, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I went. I fished on the weekend up north, and then on Monday there was a good window in the morning, and I was like,
Yeah.
just because I didn't take any fish from up there, I let all my kingies and the snapper everything go, and I was like, I go to the local, catch myself a feed of fish, a couple of snapper. It's not that hard, right?
No.
I tell you what,
What?
it's a disaster.
Really?
It's a shocker.
Yeah. Well, we do get a period about now during the
I
lead where the
couldn't
inshore gets
believe it.
really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that when it kind of slows down inshore, that's when the workups really fire out in the deep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's what's happening now. But you know, who knows? It could change. The trying to pick seasons and stuff at the moment it's all over the show. I don't think anyone really knows. Like, you know, there's workups now where normally a few years ago we wouldn't start chasing them until about August, but they're there now. You know, and you know, close as well. You know.
What is close? How close is close?
Oh well, close for me is in between Waiheke and Coromandel. So when I say close, it means they're not out wide, north of Little Barrier.
Okay,
They've
that's wide.
already moved in.
Yeah.
They've already moved in from, they normally start north of Little Barrier, 65 centimetres, and they slowly work their way in. But, they're there now. When I was off Coromandel the other day, they're there now. Acres and acres of bait and snapper already there. Heaps of them.
And that's unusual for this time of year.
Yeah.
So something is.
I don't know. So I can't predict these World Cups anymore because I just get proven wrong so often now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't try not to say it too much now because I don't know.
Funny, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything changing. Well, let's hope the weather is going to change soon and it's going to come back to where it used to be because
Yeah.
it's a bit heavy, isn't it?
Yeah. We are getting glimpses of that weather change. And I reckon the summer's going to be really good. I do. And the amount of fish out there, as you've seen, and the amount of bait, it's like, I've never seen it like that before. So many.
Well, let's hope for the best, yeah?
Yeah. All right, people. Thanks, Andre.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming on.
Cool.
And
Always.
if anyone's got any questions, fire them through. Have a good weekend. And remember, tonight, beers and chips. Have a good one.